a tiny paw trembling, a life hanging by a thread. We all face moments that test our courage, moments where the world seems to hold its breath. But what happens when a child's heart, filled with fierce love, decides to defy the odds? This is the story of a boy, a dog, and a rescue that will remind you of the extraordinary power of one small act of kindness. Stay with us, because you won't want to miss how hope can bloom in the darkest of times. A glimmer of hope. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and despair. Rain, a relentless, cold drizzle, slicked the deserted streets, mirroring the bleakness in Leo's heart. He'd searched for hours, his small frame shivering, his voice hoarse from calling out Buster's name. Every shadow seemed to mock him, every rustle of leaves a cruel trick. Buster, his scruffy terrier mix, his shadow, his best friend, was gone. Lost. The thought was a raw ache, a physical pain that tightened his chest. He imagined Buster, cold and alone, whimpering somewhere in the vast, indifferent night. Doubt gnawed at him. Had he been careless? Had Buster run too far? The questions circled, each one a tiny, sharp shard of fear. He trudged on, his sneakers squelching in puddles. The usual cheerful glow of the town felt distant, alien. He was trapped in a world of gray, a world without Buster's wet nose nudging his hand, without his happy bark greeting him at the door. He pictured Buster's floppy ears, his tail that wagged with infectious joy, his trusting brown eyes. The memories, once a comfort, now brought a fresh wave of sadness. He felt so small, so powerless against the immensity of his loss. The rain seemed to intensify, blurring his vision, and a single tear traced a path down his cold cheek, joining the drops on his skin. Then a faint sound, almost swallowed by the wind. A whimper. Leo froze, his heart leaping into his throat. He strained his ears, listening intently. It came again, a small, distressed cry. Hope, fragile and tentative, flickered to life within him. He called out Buster's name, his voice cracking with a desperate urgency. He ran towards the sound, his exhaustion forgotten, his eyes scanning the darkened alleyways. He rounded a corner, his breath catching in his throat. There, huddled beneath a discarded tarp, shivering but alive, was Buster. His tail gave a weak thump against the wet ground. Relief washed over Leo in a tidal wave, so potent it made his knees weak. He rushed forward, scooping his beloved dog into his arms, burying his face in Buster's matted fur. Buster licked his face frantically, a silent, joyous reunion. In that moment, surrounded by the cold, wet night, Leo understood. Even in the darkest of times, when all hope seems lost, a single act of persistence, a willingness to keep looking, can lead you to the greatest of joys. Love, he realized, never truly gives up. The unlikely hero. Leo wasn't the biggest kid on the block. He wasn't the fastest, nor the loudest. He was quiet, often lost in his own world, sketching fantastical creatures in his worn notebook. Most people overlooked Leo, seeing him as just another shy boy. He preferred it that way, really. Then came Buster. Buster was a whirlwind of happy barks and wagging tail, a stray with eyes full of mischief and a heart full of love. He'd appeared one day, a scruffy ball of fur scavenging near the overflowing bins behind the bakery. The neighborhood kids, bolder and more boisterous, chased him away, their laughter echoing cruelly. Leo watched from his window, a knot tightening in his stomach. He saw the fear in Buster's wide, brown eyes as the dog scrambled away, a small whimper escaping him. That night, a storm raged. Thunder boomed, shaking the very foundations of the houses. Leo lay awake, listening to the wind howl and the rain lash against his window pane. He thought of Buster, alone and scared out there somewhere in the dark. A sudden, sharp bark, closer this time, pierced the storm's fury. It was a sound of pure terror. Leo's heart leaped into his throat. He knew, with a certainty that surprised him, that he had to do something. Slipping out of bed, Leo grabbed a flashlight and his warmest jacket. He crept downstairs, the floorboards creaking a protest, and slipped out the back door into the lashing rain. He followed the desperate barks, his small flashlight beam cutting a shaky path through the downpour. He found Buster trapped, his leg caught in a broken fence near the old abandoned lot. The dog was shivering, whimpering pitifully, his eyes wide with pain and fear. Leo's own hands trembled, but he knelt beside the terrified animal. He spoke in a low, soothing voice, the words tumbling out like a gentle stream. Slowly, carefully, he worked to free Buster's leg. It was a struggle, the metal cold and sharp, but Leo's determination burned brighter than his fear. Finally, with a soft click, Buster's leg came free. The dog, though limping, nudged Leo's hand with his wet nose, a silent thank you. In that moment, Leo, the quiet boy who usually faded into the background, felt a surge of strength he'd never known. He had faced the storm, faced his own fear, and saved a life. He learned that courage isn't about being the loudest or the strongest, but about having the biggest heart, even when you feel smallest. A bond forged in fire. Smoke billowed, thick and acrid, clawing at the boy's throat. Flames danced, a hungry orange beast devouring the old barn, its timbers groaning under the inferno's relentless assault. Panic seized the villagers, their shouts swallowed by the roar of the fire. But amidst the chaos, the boy heard a desperate whimper. It was Buster, his scruffy terrier, trapped inside. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through him. He knew the risks, the suffocating heat, the collapsing roof. Yet, the image of Buster's trusting eyes, the warmth of his fur against his hand, propelled him forward. He had to try. He scrambled through a broken window, the heat searing his skin. Dust and debris rained down. The air was unbreathable, making his lungs burn with every ragged gasp. He called Buster's name, his voice a hoarse croak. A faint yelp answered him from the shadows. There, huddled near a burning hay bale, was Buster, trembling, his fur singed. The boy lunged, scooping the terrified dog into his arms. The world outside seemed 1,000,000 miles away. He felt the immense weight of his decision, the gamble he had taken. Turning back was a desperate race against time. The roof sagged ominously. Sparks rained down like fiery tears. He shielded Buster with his own body, pushing through the suffocating haze. Each step was a victory, a defiance of the raging inferno. He stumbled, falling to his knees, but Buster's frantic licks on his face spurred him on. Then a sliver of hope, the faint outline of the broken window, the distant shouts of his parents. He burst through, collapsing onto the cool grass, Buster nestled safely in his arms. The barn was lost, but a life, a precious, furry life, was saved. In that moment, covered in soot and smelling of smoke, the boy understood. True courage wasn't the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it, for the ones we love. The ripple effect. Leo's small act of kindness, a simple decision to help a shivering, lost dog, began to spread outwards like a stone dropped into a still pond. He'd coaxed the frightened animal into his yard, offering a bowl of water and a warm blanket. This was more than just saving a dog. It was planting a seed of compassion. The next morning, Leo's neighbor, Mrs. Gable, saw the dog, now wagging its tail, and asked about it. Leo explained how he found him. Mrs. Gable, touched by his story, decided to post a flyer at the local community center. She added her own small donation to a found dog fund Leo had started with his allowance. This small financial boost allowed Leo to buy better food and a proper leash for the dog he'd named Lucky. News of Lucky's rescue traveled. A local veterinarian, hearing about the dog's good fortune, offered a free checkup and vaccinations. This act of generosity inspired a young student, Maya, who volunteered at the animal shelter. She started a small campaign at her school, collecting blankets and toys for the shelter, inspired by Leo's initial act. Her efforts grew, drawing in more students and even local businesses who offered to sponsor adoption events. Leo, seeing how his single act had blossomed, felt a swell of pride, but also a deep understanding. One small gesture, born of a pure heart, had touched so many lives. It showed that kindness isn't a solitary act, it's a powerful force that can ignite a chain reaction of good, proving that even the smallest among us can create the biggest waves of positive change in the world. The little boy, with a heart so big, faced his fear and brought his best friend home. He showed us all that even the smallest among us can make the biggest difference. Love, courage, and a wagging tail. That's what truly matters. What other incredible acts of kindness can we find in our own communities? Join us next time as we explore the hidden heroes who make the world a better place, one good deed at a time.